Okay. How was your weekend, guys?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Good.
Too much of gap. We forgot almost everything.
I'm sure.
Yes.
So, do you remember which module is this, or that is it that bad?
No, that's what we are
That
aware.
we can. That we are aware.
Only that much.
No.
Yeah. I've
Did you get it?
started
Yeah.
started Kali and Bob suit. That's what I remember. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, we have to brush up with this gap. Usually is not that great. I mean, sometimes it's good, but
What happens is that, I mean, if you don't give a gap, then you'll be saying, we need a holiday because it's a holiday for you to enjoy. But at the same time, yeah, it's important for you to manage, at least keep the pace with the module which is going on.
yeah.
That's okay. What we'll do is we'll do a small exercise. This exercise would be, I'll be going through the things that we've discussed in the last session, but more in terms of impromptu discussion and having questionnaire, and we'll open up the website and see if we remember and if we can recall what we did on demo.testfire. Okay. Don't worry, it's not like a test or a quiz, but it's more of a discussion. So if just to bring you up to speed of what we did in the last session. Is that fine?
Sure. Yeah, that would be great.
All right. Okay. So, okay. My first question essentially is about what is burp and where does burp sit in terms of the architecture when you think of a HTTP proxy. Any hands? Oh, let me play with this. I think I'll randomly select. Um, Ranjit.
Yeah, so burp suit is a proxy which will intercept any HTTP request sitting within the local machine, trying to intercept all the HTTP traffic which is coming in or going out.
From where to where? Where is it positioned?
This is in the local machine.
Right.
And between, so it intercepts the HTTP traffic going to the server and the response coming from the server.
So from server to browser, from server to computer, from server to
server
client side.
to browser to server and server back to browser.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does it
so
use? Yeah,
it
go
is basically the browser proxy setting should be so any traffic from that particular browser, and we say this is my proxy setting. So anything which is originating from the browser will be proxied through burp suite, because that's where we have put the browser, we have set the proxy.
Okay. Is everyone comfortable with this? Everyone knows what burp is now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. I think somebody had a question. No? Okay. Okay. Can you tell me what is the first information gathering process when you have to start with an application pen test? What is the first thing that you look forward to? or the initial steps of information gathering.
We'll do a recon. Basically, what is the server?
Open ports.
Open ports. Yeah.
Gather information on the asset which you are trying to penetrate.
Right.
Map
But
the net.
from application standpoint, would you look for ports?
Version of the server or server, which is the server running? What is the software running that server?
Okay.
Any present vulnerabilities in that particular server.
How will you scan that vulnerability? We did this in the last scan.
Yeah.
How do you find vulnerabilities on a server? By scanning?
Yes.
I'm asking how do you do that?
So we have to check against a database. I mean, CWE database or NIST databases to check if there's a vulnerability which is published.
You went back to even previous module. This is not something we covered in the last session.
Okay.
We didn't speak about CW and NST. That is purely from the network standpoint, which is why you're mixing two things. From application standpoint, we're talking about layer 7. So we're not talking about layer 3, layer 4. So
we'll try to understand how the target responds for any intrusions.
Target response for any intrusion. Okay.
A target being the web application, because we are talking on layer 7. So I think that would be my second step.
Okay. Anything that clicks in your brain about HTTP methods? We checked about get, put, post. Do you remember that? You remember methods that we checked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember
So,
we ran Nikto and we tried scanning through Nmap.
yeah. So only the method which is required should be open, right? And not the other. So there'll be like other options.
The dangerous HTTP methods, maybe like put, delete, or
Correct.
so there.
Can anybody explain me difference between VA and penetration testing? Not you, Ranju.
Okay, so let me try. So VA is the probably it's a initial step where there is no intrusion or no exploitation tried. It's only about just an identification. But when it comes to penetration testing, it really exploits a vulnerability that really can access a resource. And another difference can be VA can be quick, but PT will take a lot of iterations and takes time.
Okay. But where does the VA stop and where does PT begins? So let's say you have exposed a vulnerability. Now, what will you do? Where will the VA exercise conclude and where will the penetration testing exercise start?
Maybe once you identify the vulnerability, that's where the scanning is done. And from there to exploit that from, after you identify the vulnerability, you go for pen testing.
Okay. Let's dig further deep. So again, the same question. We've found a vulnerability. Let's say I tell you that, demo.testfire is vulnerable to SQL injection. Now you entered a query and you saw some sort of a SQL error coming back to you, but you've not been able to get inside the system, extract something. you know that there is potentially a vulnerability because system is responding back to your SQL queries. Now, will I call this VA? Will this still be a PT because I entered a query and I got a response back? Or there is further level to a penetration testing exercise. What will you do further if you have to do a pen test? So can you classify this example as VA or PT?
I think in my understanding, it should be the recon for a starting phase of pen test. We are gathering the information or we are just trying to understand how it responds once we write in the query.
Let me explain the scenario again. We all saw demo.testfire website that we tested last week. No, yes, remember? How many of you don't even remember that application?
Demo.testfire.net.
I'm pretty sure Ranjit, you remember. I mean, I don't know about others. Guys, a bit of interaction will help me to, manage the class. It's important for you to come back at least and say if you don't remember. I'll, pass through that quickly so that you'll have some sort of a memory flashing coming back to you that okay, there's something that we did. Even if you don't remember, just say it's perfectly fine, but it's important to have interaction.
I remember it's Alturo banking site which we worked on.
Correct. And you remember we tested something.
We can log in as the admin account there because it's.
So what did we do to log in?
We bypassed and logged in as admin.
Okay. So we entered some query here, right?
Yeah, SQL injection.
Yep.
So if I'm getting some sort of an error entering a query here, will I call that as a VA exercise or a PT exercise?
This is PT.
This is PT. Okay. And then what if I am able to extract data from this? What if I'm able to exploit this to a level where I'm able to get access to inside the system? What will you call that?
If it is related to any kind of a weak password or any kind of a known attacks or known issues, you still call it as a VA, right? Because it is something which is discovered. I'm just like I'm going by as per the weak password logic, but getting into the exploitation is a PT, definitely. But credentials thing I would still consider as VA.
But how will you get to know that there is a vulnerability? So let's talk about VA first. What is VA? It's called vulnerability assessment, right? Now, I give you this website and I tell you you have to do a VA for the issues here. So how will you proceed?
Ideally, VA it leverages the database where it is being known, right? It's a knowledge base which is actually being discovered, and you try to see the trend whether it actually maps to all those known vulnerabilities that is already being discovered, rather going in depth in terms of identifying much more information, which you will eventually do it in PT.
It's nothing to do with known and unknown here. It's about vulnerability assessment as an English meaning, what I'm talking to you right now. Irrespective of what is known to the world and not known to the world. Right now, we're talking only, let's say, knowns. Let's not talk about unknowns. Unknowns are something which, obviously has a different category of evaluation criteria. Let's say you're talking about the known vulnerabilities. I'm talking about SQL injection. Now, if you have to find vulnerability in this website, I want you to do a a VA exercise on this, how would you go ahead and execute? So you have to tell me the vulnerabilities in this website. As a customer, I'm asking you, how will you do a VA? I'm not asking for PT. Just tell me logically.
We will go by the tools that is available to scan the application.
Okay, that's automated. If I say I have
Yeah.
to do manual VA,
Then again, I have to depend on executing the queries.
right? But
Right.
just mention that if I execute the query,
Creating an account and find out the password, like strength, rules and all.
so that's again assessment of entering credentials in the system, validating whether this is real or not. So you're going ahead and exploiting. Yes or no?
Yeah,
So will you call it V or will you call it PT?
I will go into PT.
I'll go in PT. Why?
Yeah. Because you're trying to penetrate the network and find out the weakness.
We're talking about application here. Let's not talk about network. So let's not mix network here. Let's be very clear in terms of the articulation that we do. We're talking only about application here for now. See, we are in a VAPT module, which is why I'm emphasizing that, there has to be a very clear reasoning why we have to do a VA and why we have to do PT. Forget about what we do later in the module. It's the concept of vulnerability assessment and penetration testing has to be crystal clear. So the process of confirming whether there is a potential vulnerability in the system is called VA, be it automated, be it manual. So even if I enter a script here and I try to confirm whether there is a vulnerability, fine. With that screenshot saying that, okay, this has an issue, it's perfectly fine. It's called manual VA. We don't call it PT. So don't think that actually executing a script just for the purpose of confirming a vulnerability is called penetration testing. It's not intrusive. We've not done any change in the code. We've just confirmed that that particular issue exists in the system.
Right.
So even if you enter a script here and the system shows you a pop-up that, there is a possible SQL issue here happening, that's purely VA. Even if you enter a script for XSS, even you enter a script for, or you try to test the password weakness by creating credentials, all of that is purely VA. The penetration testing comes when you try to exploit into intrusive assessment. PT is corely where I will ask you to go ahead and exploit, take something out from the database and validate that credentials, or validate that you can bypass authorization, you can bypass authentication, you've extracted data of the system. All of that is intrusive. That's PT. That whether can you penetrate inside the system deep enough to get business logic bypass or business critical information. That is PT. VA stands at a point where you are able to confirm that system is vulnerable to a particular vulnerability by finding a proof of concept. It does not mean that you are able to exploit this application to a level where you can extract business sensitive information, business logic bypass, or you're able to disrupt the system in any means. PT has to be intrusive. PT is purely intrusive. If anyone says that, I just want manual validation of vulnerabilities, that's vulnerability assessment. So VA and PT are two separate topics. The problem is that in the market right now, people combine this and say that we want to do VA PT exercise. You have to be very clear with your articulation, and you have to be very clear with the customer expectation. Customer can be confusing at times. You have to say, what exactly are you looking for? What is your objective? Are you looking only for us to validate whether this system is vulnerable in real? I'll do a VA. If you want me to do intrusive assessment where you want to ascertain that I can actually take out your database, I can actually bypass your logins, that is PT. To understand the depth of a particular vulnerability, we do PT. To confirm a vulnerability, we just do VA. Are we able to define this clearly? Is it? Yes.
Do we follow a checklist not a standard checklist, but the way of approach might differ from application to application. But do we follow any set of checklist? Either this one might work or this one might not. We have an alternative ways of just the standard.
So if you remember, I was going through different scenarios in the last class.
Yes, yes.
So that scenarios itself is a checklist that we have to go through these scenarios every time we do assessment, be it VA, be it PT, because the scenarios would be same, but the place where you stop defines what activity you've performed. If you just give a proof of concept that the system is, confirming that there is an issue, that's VA. But you're able to bypass login. You're
PT.
I've lost you, or it's my network.
Yeah, even we lost.
Same here. I think sir has some network issues. I'll just check with him once.
Hi, sorry, there was a power cut. So I have to drop out. Am I audible?
Yes, you're
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, we were discussing about VNPT. So is that concept clear now? Where do we have to stop in from VA perspective, and how do we conclude that this is PT? Or still there doubts?
Also, could you share your screen?
But there's nothing that I'm showing on screen. This is more of a query.
Okay, sir.
I have one more question. Maybe it's too basic. So, am I audible? Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah.
So basically, if I'm going with an automated approach, right? Let's say if I'm using some tools over there for completing the VA scan,
Hmm.
versus me writing a generic script, right? And trying to fetch the vulnerabilities that pops out, because that script, I'm assuming it is going to be common across any number of applications that I will be using, because PT will be more specific to that application and the framework what I'm using, right? And if I'm using for a VA purpose, how much of this testing validation that can happen from the framework what I have built? Example, if I'm going with the automated approach, what a tool driven is versus me having a generic script to figure out the application vulnerabilities.
But how is that differ? I mean, application can be changed, but the approach would be same,
Because even if I'm going with an automated way of handling things by using some tools,
right?
they are not actually be very specific on intrusion on a specific application level, right? Because they are going by as per the knowledge base what they have created and not to a specific environment.
Right.
So if I compare that with the capability what we can build within the organization, because pen testing, I understand we create our own defense mechanisms to try to exploit and try to intrude to the application layer. But when it comes to VA, to what level someone would actually invest to write their own frameworks? I'm talking when you don't want to invest on tools such as what is available in the market, or you do see always people prefer to go to the tools that are there because it is too time consumption in terms of investing their access to it. I'm just trying to compare what would be the approach when you typically see in a VA, because we often see people using the well-known tools uh, other than having their own frameworks. That's always little confusion for me to see. Is it an investment that has to go from the organization, or you still go and subscribe to some tools?
So there are ways to it. I mean, from solution standpoint, if I talk about VA as a as a standard, VA is basically evaluation of certain vulnerabilities basis a pattern that the tool has been built on. I mean, the tool has nothing to do with the application. The tool understands that these are the basic logic checks that I should do, basis which if I get a desired response, I will confirm this is a vulnerability. There
Correct.
could be false positives, there could be even false negatives, and there could be you know uh, a, a a giant list of issues which you possibly may or may not have inside the application. It is purely from the prediction standpoint or the pattern that the tool has received from a response. Now there are multiple tools in the market which perform these activities. The tool which gives you the best output, you would probably select it in terms of finding vulnerabilities. The reason you invest into a tool like this is to have some sort of a automation in your organization, because you don't possibly want to invest into a manual PT exercise which is more time consuming and more costly.
Yeah.
So organization prefer going for a VA of applications, so that even if there is about 30 or 20% acceptable false positive margin, they would still go ahead to figure that out from the tool itself, and they will ask the developers to look back and validate and patch it instead of going through the exercise of having a manual assessment done. But now the world is changing, because everyone understands that 20%, 30% is enough for any hacker to come inside and breach your application. So why should we depend only on automated tools which are giving you a false positive result and is not giving you a validated solution recommendation to where should I apply the fix? It's very generic in sense, because it's generalized. That's how a tool behaves. So for me to have a comfort as a CISO, I would prefer going for a manual approach where I'm getting a direct recommendation. I'm getting a direct reasoning for the root cause of my issue. And I'm able to finger point that this is the place where I need to apply a patch through which I can solve my security issue. So which is why the manual side works more. Now, the reason people don't invest into creation of tools, because one, it will lead to a generic pattern based mechanism. There's no tool that can conceptualize, probably AI, which can learn, but there's no tool that can conceptualize and think from a human perspective that, okay, let me try this and potentially this could work, or let me try this different scenario differently, and then I can get into the system. So tool has to be generalized. There are certain logics on which a tool works, and if you are a solution builder yourself, you'll understand that a tool has to be given some 0 and 1 in order to execute. So that is where the limitation of automated solution comes, and again, it will not give you the same kind of output. Though there are a lot of approaches already done in order to automate manual VA exercise in the world, and there has been some sort of success already achieved, but they still prefer going for a manual approach because that's cheaper, that's easily available, instead of building an AI-based solution for their own organization. There could be one organization who builds it and probably everyone will take it. And we're pretty sure this process would be automated sometime soon, like probably in like another 3 to 4 years, we'll have a complete PT to be automated using AI. But as of now, where we stand, the approach is very clear that the VA scanning is purely pattern based, and which is why we need to have more direct and more precise information and input available, for which we prefer doing manual VA or we prefer doing manual PT. That's how it works. So I think, am I able to answer your question correctly? Do you have a background on this or
Yeah,
not?
I got where it is going, but in the scanning process, so in the entire vulnerability assessment phase, example, you're doing the discovery, then you're doing the scanning, then you're doing the analysis, and then reporting. All those happen. So in the scanning phase, when you say manual, is it
Hmm.
is it building that entire process or a framework, and to what level you're trying to convey it is going to be manual? Is it going to be again a tool-driven approach in the back end, or it is? I'm
So,
just missing that part
so
of manual thing.
manual, when I say, it has to be individual approaches, the kind of approach that we discussed in the last class as well. For example, we found out how to bypass an authentication. So the burp scanner will try from a pattern that, okay, if I enter SQL injection, is the application behaving abnormally? So that pattern can be detected by a tool. But for you to actually find out how this application authentication can be bypassed, that's a manual approach that you'll have to take and inject a query.
Okay.
Now, if the application says, okay, authentication granted, the tool never gave you an authentication granted scenario. It is you who entered the query and you got the response back. So you validated that particular bug which was reported by the tool. So tool stopped at a place where it says there is a potential authentication bypass because I got a response. Now it's on you to try that if this really works or not. We tried, we got success, and it works. So we
Got it.
validated that issue that was given to us by the tool. So this is how it differs.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Any more questions? No. Okay. I have a question. So can anyone tell me what is HSTS? Strict Transport Security. You remember we opened up an application, let's say google.com, it was forcing you to redirect towards HTTPS. Can everyone open Google and anyone can share the screen Let me see. You can.
It is a web security policy.
Right. Aman, can you share your screen and show when you open Google what happens?
Sure.
Yeah. Just type HTTP and then google.com. Don't type HTTPS. Press enter. Now click on the log just next to google.com. Click on the lock next to Google. Lock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It automatically redirected you to select connection is secure. Come down. So we never entered HTTPS and still google.com was open on HTTPS.
Yeah.
What is forcing google.com to open on HTTPS? Now open demo.testfire. The same way, HTTP demo.testfire.net. It wasn't forced to open an HTTPS. Now it says not secure.
This is from the web server, right? The web server is actually responding to the browser request to get redirected to HTTPS.
Right, but what is forcing the web server to react in this manner?
I don't recall my old age, but still, I think there is a response code which is actually forcing it to.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
some changes there. Even I'm not able to recall that in the last session we did that. So
Correct.
ultimately,
That is why I'm asking. So let's put burp here and try to intercept both the requests. One for google.com, one for demo.testfire. I'm pretty sure you guys had a nice weekend.
yeah. I need to make the changes over there, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Select intercept server responses. Come down.
It has to do with some 301 response call.
So once I need to make the change over there, right? The proxy.
You
Yep.
open browser. You click on this open browser. I think you can directly here itself in the interface, right?
I'm not able to recall where we did that.
No, here only. No, just forget that. Just click on this open browser at the bottom, right? That you use that browser. It's easier to, and then just open that testfire.net here.
Click here demo.testfire.
Yeah, so it is.
You have to initiate the intercept there. You've not initiated the intercept. Go back to burp. Yep. Intercept is on. Yeah. Now open again. Just refresh. Go back to the browser. Yeah. Now do a right click here on the request. Select send to repeater. Second option, yeah, send to repeater. Go to repeater. Press send. Click on send. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, this is the request to open, and there is a response from the server. So somebody was saying that the response code is such that it forces you to do an HTTP. So can anybody explain me from this response code? How is this forcing you to come on HTTP? In the meantime, I'm going to go and open google.com.
Okay.
On the browser. Okay. Go back to burp. Go back to proxy. Forward. Click on forward. Now select this request. Come down, right click, send to repeater. Go to repeater. Now send. Okay, go back. Go back to proxy. Click forward. Yeah. Forward. Go back. Click forward.
I want me to click again on forward.
Yeah. Click. It loaded back on HTTPS. Now go back to HTTP history. Select google.com first request. You'll see HSTS response there. Security. Yep, just hold on to this.
Yeah.
You see a response saying strict transport security in the header. In the response header, do you see line number 6?
Yeah.
Strict transport security. This is not there in the response. Go back to repeater, show that in demo.testfire there is no strict transport security. Select 1, tab 1.
Dashboard?
Tab 1. Yeah, you're on the second tab. Select 1. The 2 tabs, right? 1 and 2.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no strict transport security here.
The response section, no, I don't see it.
Correct. So this is what is enforcing to open the application on SSL. So strict transport security header is what we call as HSTS header, which is important in the response code, which ensures and forces you to open the application on SSL.
TPS. Okay.
Remember this?
Yes, now able to recall. Yeah.
And yeah, this setting must be enabled on the IAS side, right? To enforce all the parameters for the SSL, require SSL certificate. So if the client is not having a genuine certificate, then the application server or the web server will deny the request.
Yes, all of these requests are on the server. All of this has to maintain from IIS or even Apache for that matter.
So these all are the properties of application to restrict the access.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Are you able to recall, or is it all new again?
I'm able to recall. So, yeah.
Yeah. Could you go back to that header, that HSTS?
In the repeater section or here or this one?
Here only, number 6.
Number 6, yeah. So maximum is that is for the time period, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I think it's for
Usually
1
we
year.
keep it 1 year. Yeah.
What if it got some, again, some generic thing? So what if it has got some subdomains? Example, like
It will apply to them as well.
okay.
This is at the server level. Server level.
Right.
Means it's a Tomcat or Apache or IES, that level.
So whenever you call that parent domain, you will get a response back for that because it's hitting the same server, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
from the server side, you'll get the same response code. So from on the server side, we have enforced this header that whenever this particular domain is called, we have to enforce SSL. So which is why we apply HSTS header.
If I
But-
want to exclude for certain subdomains, I can still do that.
I don't know. See, it does it? This is a question from my side also. Does it? It will not be affected at DNS level, right? Once it is hitting that server, then only it will be enforced. So if your
Well, these all,
subdomain,
Ranjit, these all are web application properties where you can define your SSL certificate, you can integrate, and there is
this is at
also
the server
certain checks.
level.
Yes, yeah, this is server level, nothing on the DNS side.
Yeah,
DNS is
nothing
just
at the
doing a
DNS
lookup.
side. So if your DNS, if your subdomain of DNS is going to any other server, then you can manage that way, right?
Yes.
So that DNS resolution of subdomain, if it is resolved to some other IP,
Mm-hmm.
then we can manage it that it does not need.
But why do you want to put your application on HTTP is the first question. Are we talking about how to become insecure here?
No, there may be possibility. Let's say some of them are like sales site or some information site or wiki site. Or some of them may be transaction related. So transaction related may be HTTPS. Other thing, I mean, I'm just making it up.
See, essentially now we've come to a scenario where HTTP is probably 90s. The reason I say this is any information which is on HTTP is transparent. Now, unless there could not be any potential business loss on wikis, let's say, because you want that information to be public. You want that information to be known. So there's no business logic in terms of keeping that on HTTPS. So the only potential thing that I can see logically here is probably saving the cost of a certificate. But for that, setting up another server, hosting that on HTTP, asking wiki to be on HTTP makes no sense.
Just one example, let's give. So when we work with JavaScript, a lot of JavaScript or a lot of static content usually are driven from CDN or someplace. I'm not sure if everything is on HTTPS there.
Potentially now everything is. So you will come across those scenarios that where everything is on HTTPS, and there would be very, very, very rare cases in which something has to be forced on HTTP in that sense. Because practically there's no logical use case to have HTTP anymore, which is why we're moving towards the world of encryption. But yeah, I mean, if somebody has to have it on HTTP, it's a personal choice or a business choice that they would have.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Right. Okay. Quickly run Kali machines. Can everyone open Kali and run Nikto on demo.sfire? But you have to find out the IP yourself of demo.sfire and run it on the IP. Nikto-h. And anyone can share your screen, whoever has done it already.
I forgot the command also. Let me share anyway.
Nicto-h.
Yeah. It takes time. That's what I remember now. Okay.
Just open SSL scan on another tab. Sorry, I was speaking.
Tab. SSL scan?
Yeah.
I forgot everything, I think.
Type SSL scan. Paste
Okay.
google.com.
This one?
Enter. Yeah, just enter.
Yeah.
Do you recall this?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay. Can anybody explain me the difference between DES and 3DES? Okay.
DS,
Can anybody
3DS.
Yeah.
I don't recall it now. It's a block cipher, that's all I recall.
But there is one block and then there is 3DES. So let's do a mathematical function. What is x and 3x? Yeah, it's 3 times a DES.
Okay, 3 times DES, okay.
So there was a need of creation of 3DES over DES, but we call DES still vulnerable because block cipher value of DES can be easily brute forced. So which is why we multiplied it by 3 to ensure that we increase the number of bits.
Okay.
You
So
see DES CBC2 SHA. Yeah.
This one?
The one in yellow. DES.
Yeah, yeah. But this is okay. This is not secure AES, DS. Which one? Some is. I think this is where ECDSA. I think this is where is the recommended thing, right?
256 everywhere is in green. You see that 1112 56-bit DES is insecure.
Okay, this is insecure. Okay. So DES is insecure. Okay.
Single DES is 56-bit. So you multiplied by 3.
Okay.
And TLS 1.0 and 1.1 is also supported. Try running this on any other application. Everyone try run SSL scan probably on your company website.
Okay.
Guys, are you able to recall, or all of this is going like a bouncer?
No, good. We are we are doing it.
Slowly it's getting recalled.
Yeah, very secure. Everything is tight.
Correct.
Oh, 1.2 and 1.3 only. But it's still saying okay, not able to heartbeat. Okay, heartbeat. So only 1.2 is enabled, 1.3 is enabled.
Anyone else wants to share their screen and share the results?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1.2 is enabled only.
Yep.
And I think still waiting for the command to get over.
Still unlocking ciphers.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you recall now all of this?
Yes.
Okay. So now you have gone through complete introduction and information gathering. Can anybody explain me what is improper error handling?
So there's some of the information, internal information can be thrown as a error on the back to the response. Is that we are talking about? And it will basically reveal some of the internals of the application.
Correct. So give me an example.
Let's say it's a SQL error which shows up, 500 error. It may show we are using MS SQL, or it may reveal the table name or it may reveal the column name, table name. It may also reveal the version of the server.
Right. So what do we type there?
We have to basically not throw any exception. I mean, we have to basically have exception that something has failed, but not the exact stack trace. I mean, what I'm talking is the stack trace at the database level or the application level should not be shown on the screen. Even sometimes even PII data also is thrown.
Do not give too much details in the error message.
Can
Yeah,
you give me an example or something like that? Okay, I'll show you something. I entered a SQL query which was incorrect. I got this error message. What do you what do you evaluate from this error message? It says line number 1, column number 65 of what?
In proper syntax.
So this is going back to the server code and validating something, right?
Yes.
So you're getting a response like this means what?
SQL injection is possible.
So what if I have to report this as a bug, what bug will I report? At this particular stage, I've not been able to bypass anything. I'm just sitting at this front page and all I can see is this error message.
So the username field should not accept any symbol.
Is that an error? Is that a vulnerability that you will disclose in your report? What is the issue here? What is the vulnerability that you will report? So let's say
Wrong error message.
correct. So it's called improper error handling.
Improper error handling, because it should show ideally the username or password is incorrect, but it is showing the what is the problem in the code.
Correct. Correct. So this is what we call it as improper error handling. When you enter a query and the system misbehaved and they were not handling the errors properly, instead of throwing the exception properly or the errors properly, they actually showed what the server is responding back to them, which is wrong, because then the hacker can predict from the error message that what should be the next logical step. Let's say I enter this. I'm inside. I'm able to log in, right?
Yep.
Because I knew there's potential SQL injection. So this is called improper error handling. Do you recall this?
Yes,
Okay. What else did we cover in the last class? Anyone remembers Apple side? We entered an Apple ID. We used Aman's Apple ID.
Yeah.
Yes. What was that? We were able to confirm that Aman really has an iPhone. We were able to confirm that he's using Apple email.
Yeah.
That's called account enumeration. Okay. Aman, can you open your screen again?
Sure.
Guys, we need interaction. Otherwise, this will become boring. We're in a hacking class. Come on. I mean, some sort of excitement can be expected. I know we've gone past that age, so still, some bit of excitement would be helping. Just open appleid.com. Select and sign in. Type a wrong email ID here first, which is not an Apple ID. I think it's not here. It's on forgot password maybe. Forgot.
I think last session we clicked on the forgot Apple ID.
Correct. You go to forgot Apple ID.
Yes.
Now type here an email ID which is not an Apple ID. Yeah. So this is an Apple ID.
Maybe. I thought.
So people can try, and what I'm just trying to showcase here is that you can do possible account enumeration from here to confirm somebody's username and confirm that somebody has an iPhone or not, somebody has an Apple ID or not. So it's called account enumeration. Okay. How many of you know about CAPTCHA? What is CAPTCHA?
CAPTCHA is an image where we enter, we provide a text from the image or in IRCTC, which cannot be, which an automated thing cannot crack that verification. It's an image validation.
So why do you put a CAPTCHA on a login page?
So just to authenticate, it's actually login has been done manually and no automation script has been driving. For example,
Whether the user is a human or not,
Yeah.
it's more of a challenge response test.
So what will it solve? Just to validate if it's human or not, you have a CAPTCHA. Is it solving any security issue here?
avoids brute force attack normally when you're driving through some script.
Correct.
Or a bot or something.
What is the difference between a brute force and a dictionary attack?
Brute force is all possibility.
Okay.
Dictionary is
Defined words.
yeah, defined possible.
Specific words. Yeah.
So that possibility is determined by whom? The attacker.
Yes.
So CAPTCHA can solve both.
So CAPTCHA will basically automation of any of this attack it can reduce.
Okay. All right, guys. So I think we are at 11:10. We'll take a 20 minutes break. We'll come back at 11:30. We did a revision of what we did in the last class. That's information gathering and account and user ID management. We will explore more scenarios about these, and we'll try to break in demo.aspire now from authorization standpoint. We'll start with authorization and control. We did a lot of discussion on the class, the categories of authentication layer. We discussed 3 different types of authentication also. We'll run through that quickly again, and then we'll start with authentication bypass. Okay, so we'll circle back at 11:30.
Sure.
Right. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Are we back? Is everyone back?
Yes.
Yes, we are back.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Should we progress? Yeah, be और revise करना है. Do we have more to go back to?
I think we can progress.
You think? Okay. Let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see. You remember this?
Not able to
Yes.
see your screen.
Okay. This one.
Yes, now.
You remember authentications? 1, 2, 3. Form based, digest, basic. We compared. What is base 64 encoding? Okay, what is the difference between encoding and encryption? Quickly, guys, what is the difference between encoding and encryption? What is encoding?
Just change the format. That's the
What is,
encoding.
what is hashing?
The hashing is just adding a key to the original value so that
Key.
it comes with the hashed key always.
Then what is encryption?
Changing the format of the original data with the encrypted key.
So there is a key in hashing, there's a key in encryption both.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think hashing is reversible?
No. Hashing is not. Yeah.
Then why do you need a key to hash?
Okay. Maybe then I should say it's a string which is added, right? It's a random string which is added, not a key then.
So if it's a random string which is added, then how is hash value determined as unique?
That will be salting if you add a random string.
Right. Then what is hashing?
Just convert it like MD5 sum. So you have one file, you have some content, and you assign it to a particular number. You run your algorithm and generate a particular number or a string or a combination of that. It's what called as like hash of that content. So the moment you add a single word in your original content, the hash will change. And how will you decrypt it? That's written in algorithm like MD5
How
or
do you
any
detect that this is a unique value of a particular this hash belongs to a unique value? Let's say if I have to convert your name into a hash value, how would that hash value refer back to your name?
Again, you have to decrypt, like you have to run the algorithm and find out what is correspond to what. Like your hash.
Can I
No,
add?
hash
Adi?
is on.
Adi?
Yeah, go ahead.
You will never decrypt it. You will again, whatever is supplied again, will again hash it and will compare hash to hash.
Okay. Can you explain more? How will you compare a hash to hash?
So usually we store hash in our some storage database or any place. And as soon as we give the password, we'll take the password and hash it again and compare, string compare, and it should be equal. So we actually don't know what's the password.
Correct. So now can you tell me the difference between encoding and hashing?
Encoding, so let's say the HTTP encoding, so it encoding is
key concepts that we need to learn. One is encoding, one is hashing, and one is encryption. Now let's start with encryption first, because I believe that is the most relatable word you must have heard, right? In your day-to-day life, you must have heard encryption several times. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you know something called symmetric and asymmetric?
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone must have gone through this this study of encryption in their BTechs or whatever graduation you must have done. You must have understood what is encryption. So can anybody explain me what is asymmetric and symmetric encryption?
Yeah, I think so. In symmetric, we use only one key to encrypt and decrypt, whereas in asymmetric, we use one key would be for the encryption and the other one will be for the decryption.
Okay, so symmetric is one key, that is correct.
Right.
For asymmetric, there'll be like a public key and private key.
Correct.
So and there's a whole ecosystem around this for the signing and other stuff. But with the public key, we can encrypt, and with the private key, we can decrypt. That's the basic.
What is the fundamental problem that encryption is solving?
Just hiding the data on the network.
Why do you want to hide the data?
To hide the data from the intruders, like the message for whom it is intended to be. Like only for those people it should go, and the person who should be reading it, not the other people. For that purpose, we use encryption.
Something called man in middle always in the network. So if it is not encrypted, anybody who is having or anybody who can tap the packets on the network should be able to read what's going on. So it's basically open to the anybody who can read or anybody who can tap the packets. If we encrypt it, so even if we tap the packet, it's useless. At least till date.
Okay. So if you, again, we're not going to the fundamentals yet. What I'm hearing is more that you have to hide, but what is the reason to hide? I understand that you don't want to show the data, but you obviously share your key to somebody and the person is able to decrypt the data and visualize it. What was the reason that, what is that one word or essentially the concept?
Confidentiality.
Correct. Confidentiality is ensured, but how do you share the key on what basis? What is the fundamental of sharing that key? When you share that key, what are you sharing with that person?
So public key is always kept. It's not shared, and sorry, public key is always shared. So anybody who can get the public key can encrypt the
Right.
data.
So if I give you my public key, what am I sharing with you?
Cipher, are you trying to ask?
I'm right now talking conceptually. I'm not talking on technical terms. Encryption basically is a method of trust.
Yes.
When I share a key to you, I'm sharing my trust to you.
Yeah,
Trust is ensured when I share key to you, and now you can view my data. So I'm sharing trust to you. Now, in order to share that key and share that trust, should I evaluate something that should I be able to share my trust with you or not? Or you can share your public key to everyone?
So the circle of trust and that's where the certifying authority is placed, and not everybody can certify what is the key, right? That's where in the circle of trust, okay, you need to have the certifying authority, and if it is certified by certain organization, then only I'll trust that particular key.
This is providing
which means that
proof of
certifying authority
delivery.
is sorry.
This is providing a proof of delivery to this recipient, like a non-repudiation comes in picture over here.
We're deviating from the topic. What I'm trying to understand here is why and how am I able to share a trust within an organization? I'm trying to make you understand encryption fundamentally. We have reached to the level of trust. Now, if I have to share trust to somebody, what should I evaluate before sharing that trust? So Ranjit mentioned that there has to be a CA, which basically ensures that, that certifying authority mentions that, okay, this person is trustable, so you can share your key. So that CA is maintaining that authority. But what is that CA evaluating?
Let's evaluate the domain
data.
Domain
CA from the picture. Let's talk conceptually only. If I have to share my trust to Ranjit, what should I evaluate of Ranjit before sharing my key to him?
I think identity.
Identity.
Correct. But that identity is only for the purpose of knowing him, not sharing trust. I know that he's Ranjit, but the choice of sharing my trust to him has to be dependent on something more. I want to
roles and
confirm
privileges of the user,
which is authorization. Is he authorized for it? It is not authentication or identity, it is authorization. This is where I want to bring you. It is the choice of the administrator, let's say, or the person who's sharing the trust to authorize the other user for a particular information. Now, when you do encryption and give your certificate to the other person, give the key to the other person, you are validating his identity and authorizing that other person to access your information. Are you getting it? It's not just identity. It is authorizing the issue, authorizing the particular rights.
Yes.
So encryption is managing a lot of things. You've given authenticity, you've given authorization, you've managed identity. Encryption is managed all of this. Yes or no?
Yes.
Confidentiality is ensured, identity is ensured, authorization control is given. So encryption is managing all of that.
Right.
Now let's jump to hashing. So people who don't understand hashing is a one-way function in which one-way mathematical function in which a particular string is converted into a hash value using that mathematical function. Now that value cannot be reversed back to the original value. That is hashing. To make sure that every hash value is unique, we might add salt because there could be collision where there could be a possibility that two string functions can come to a same hash value. So if collision does not, if they have to avoid collision, what we do is we add salting to it so that there has to be a uniqueness in every hash. Now, from this logic, try and understand what are the possible pain points hashing is solving. Hashing is a simple mathematical function. There's no key, there is no nothing. You enter a value and it is converted into another value. Now think through what hashing can solve. Conceptually.
Integrity.
Sorry?
Integrity.
Hashing is solving integrity. Okay?
Yes.
Explain more. How is it solving integrity?
I can give an example from the forensic point of view. Like when we do forensics on any device, we first take the hash value and we keep it aside, and we then work on. We don't usually don't work on the evidence. So the evidence hash value is taken, and when you have to show it in the code, then at that time the first thing what the judge will do is they will compare the hash value of the evidence taken at first, and the investigation when it is done, and at the end of the investigation, the hash value because the second time also we have to take the hash value. So we are going to compare it. If there is any change on the evidence, the hash also get changed. So that can actually give a clear picture that okay, the any data on the evidence has not been tampered. So we can actually tell that it helps in integrity. We can be assured that the data on the evidence has not been changed by comparing the hash taken at the first and at the end of the evidence. That's the example I can give.
So essentially what you're saying is that every time two different inputs are given to the similar hash function, there has to be two different unique hash values. So which is why they will not collide, and hence that integrity is ensured that the previous data and the current data is not changed. Correct? Yeah. So that is how you say that integrity is there. Is there anything else hashing can solve? Are you validating identity of somebody using hashing?
Yes, using the passwords, hash of the password.
No, I'm saying validating the identity of a user. Can you validate somebody's identity using hash?
Yes.
How?
I mean, in previous module, in the cloud security module, there was a concept for Azure Active Directory to integrate with the Azure cloud. So there it was using the password hashing method to synchronize all the basically the all on-prem AD users onto the cloud. And yeah, basically this we covered, and so far this much I know. I mean, it keeps the same password, but every time it changes it hash values.
If the hash value is changing for the same password, then how are you validating an identity? Is that really hash? See, hash value for a same content should not change. Otherwise, the integrity is breached, no?
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
So
hashing is more secure compared to encryption.
Okay. How do you say so?
Because we cannot. Yeah, in encryption we can reverse whatever we entered as a password or the text which is encrypted using the private key and the algorithm. But in hashing, even though it is used any algorithm, but we cannot decode it. Like it cannot be reversed back to the original value.
So what is the need? That is what I'm making you understand. See, in encryption, you want the content back because you want the other person to read the content. Correct. Which is why you share trust, and the other person should be able to decode and read it. In hashing, the purpose is different. The purpose is only to convert it into a single string which cannot be reversed back, and you're ensuring integrity from it. Is hashing really for confidentiality? Because you cannot read what is there. Is hashing solving confidentiality?
No, it's only for the integrity.
Correct, because hashing is not meant for it. Hashing is only solving the integrity issue where you can compare two data and understand that these two data are unique. Because there is a uniqueness coming in hashing. That is all what is hashing is solving at the moment. There's nothing else that hashing solves. Hashing converts a data into a unique string which makes it comparable. Now, in the case of identity, when multiple people come in with a value, those values are unique because that hashing function converts into a unique string. And if that string is comparable every time you log in, then your identity is guaranteed. But is identity ensured from hashing? No, it is confirming the integrity of the data that has been input. It compares as a unique string. Identity and surety was done by CA where it confirms that yes, this is the right user. But how they compare is a different logic. Hashing is a mathematical function which is creating a unique value for the data that you've entered. And it is only solving the integrity issue. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, let's come to encoding now. What is encoding?
What I feel is not every system can understand every type of format. So that is where we need encoding. So it's basically one of the example is HTML will be like, let's say space will be encoded as %20. Characters also are encoded, let's say UTF-8, UTF-16. So not every application can understand UTF or maybe ASCII or something like that. So depending on how to represent or how to format a data, that may be encoding so that application understands.
Very true. But what is encoding solving?
It's a standardization.
Very true. That's exactly what it is. It is converting data into one format which is readable by a particular machine. I gave you an example of VLC player. You remember when you used to have Winamp and VLC in 90s and 2000?
Yeah.
And you had to run certain media files which were not being run by your media player. And they said codec missing. You remember those times? And you had to convert your video probably from 3GB to AVI to MPEG, and then you were able to run that video.
Right.
It was conversion of from one format to another so that your system reads it and you are able to listen to that music file or a video file. Encoding is only standardization, conversion of one format to another so that the system is able to read. So encoding is not solving any confidentiality, any integrity. It is purely standardization. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, not used for security purpose.
Correct. So now you have clear understanding what is encoding, what is hashing, and what is encryption. Is it clear now?
Yes.
No confusion?
No.
Okay. Okay. Can we do a small exercise? Can you intercept the login mechanism of demo.testfire and tell me what login mechanism is it using? Yes, no, maybe. Guys, can you quickly spin up demo.testfire and check?
Yes, let's try.
Doing.
Admin, right? Admin, right?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry?
Yeah, admin.
Yeah, okay.
And check what kind of authentication mechanism is it using? Is there any hashing? Is there any security? Is there any conversion?
It's doing a normal post. I see. I mean, I can see the payload.
Correct. And which is called?
Basic. I don't know what it is.
It's called form-based authentication.
Form-based authentication. Okay. Right.
We discussed.
We discussed this last time. Yes.
Okay. Last question. I think then we'll move forward. What is ICA string?
I can't remember now.
You remember file upload?
Yeah, remember that.
And when I mentioned that you have to check for a antivirus running on an application or not, we run for an ICAR file?
Right.
Yes, no.
Right.
Guys, I need your support.
Yes. So it's a demo, or it's a, I don't know.
Sample malware.
Sample malware. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right.
So what is ICAR? ICAR is just a pattern which is detected as a sample malware by every antivirus in the world. So when you upload that ICAR string on any file upload scenario in a simple notepad.txt, essentially that file should be validated in terms of the content. So when you upload a file on an application, the content validation can be checked by uploading ICAR string. If the ICAR string is already submitted and the system does not respond back with any error, that is called a content validation issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Let's come to a new topic. It's called authorization. So we just discussed authorization right now. And can anybody tell me what does authorization guarantee?
I don't think I understand that.
Okay. What is authorization as a logic?
The access to do certain. I mean, this is basically having access to. I mean, this is basically having some privileges. Privileges or entitlement to do something.
Right. These are rights to basically a particular access, or a rights to basically have access to a certain bit of information. And that authorization control is guaranteed by the owner of that particular information. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, in order to give authorization to somebody, what are the checks that you will guarantee?
We'll check the principle of, I mean, his role and what are the privileges or entitlement.
Correct. And can it be vertical? Can it be horizontal? Give an example of a hierarchy in a corporate world. So let's say you have a hierarchy of a manager, then a director, and then let's say a CEO. There are 3 levels of it. And there could be multiple managers in a single process. That's also possible. Manager A, manager B, manager C. And different managers at the same level can have different access permissions to a particular application.
Yeah. This
yes,
this we remember from Azure Active Directory permissions, where permission given at the higher node trickles down to the lower node.
Correct. And there could be a possibility that there are multiple people at same level, and there could be multiple people in up the chain in a vertical manner. Yes or no?
Right.
Correct. Now, just keep that in mind when you talk about authorization, because authorization can be horizontal, authorization can be vertical, both. What we are discussing here in terms of an application is that there could be elevation of privileges or there could be movement of privileges, both from horizontal or vertical level. Now, how many of you have actually gone across coding? Have you Do you understand the concept of objects? What are objects in a source code?
Yeah,
Do you understand?
Previous class was AIML, so I think everybody have done some little bit of coding on Python.
Okay. So do you have a background of what is object?
Yeah, it's a instantiation of some class.
No other meaning?
I mean, it need to be how do I say it? Something to be loaded in the memory. If it is not loaded in memory, then it is not an object. It's still in class.
So an object basically stores reference to, let's say, something. If that is a valid statement, it should be pointing out to a particular information. Let's consider object that. Is that a correct definition?
Yes.
So every object in a source code would definitely point out to a certain bit of information or certain bit of key data that, somebody has authorization or somebody might not have an authorization to view. Right? Now, what if there is no authorization control, and if I run through that particular object directly, I'm able to view it? I'll show you an example. Let's spin up demo.testfire. Let's open demo.testfire. And we did this in the last class also. Let's open it up. Remember, we opened up admin login. We saw edit user functionality.
Yeah, we did this.
And edit user functionality is only visible to admin. And there are other users also.
Right.
Now let's log in from another user. What is the password, John Doe? I think test 1234, right? Or did we reset? Wait a minute. It's demo 1234. There is no admin control here. Yes, no?
Yeah.
Correct.
No.
Now let me point it out to a specific page. It doesn't give me an access directly to admin. Yes? If I browse that page?
Correct.
Yes. Now let me do something. I'm log into a particular directory which is only accessible to admin. I'll sign out. I've logged in as John Doe. And directly refer to admin.jsp. I'm able to access it. Yes. Can everyone try this on their own systems, please? Quickly.
Yeah.
Please share a screen as well, whoever has done it.
Yeah, this one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Others? Okay, we'll do step by step. Open demo.testfire first. And then open burp. Share my screen.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
What's the password for J2?
It's
demo 1234.
Demo 1234 D capital.
Okay, thanks.
Is my screen is shareable?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So currently I'm logged in with admin account.
Yep, go ahead.
This account, right?
Yeah.
This says password was not found in our system.
Demo 1234 D capital. And username is J.
Actually, I use D small. I am not sure it's capital or small. Demo 1234.
Yeah.
Same problem.
If you try D small.
I tried D small.
D capital, D small, both are not giving
Yes.
access.
Same problem.
Let me request for control.
Actually, for me, both capital and small d is working.
Works for me too.
I just changed the password. Yeah.
On the top.
But admin account is working.
Just clear cookies first. Clear cookies and log in again. And put intercept off.
So first I tried with admin account and it worked.
Right. Now copy this URL. It's okay. Just copy this URL.
Same problem.
Demo 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it's working for me.
Or there's no
Demo.
space. Demo 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Demo 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, yeah, it worked.
Now log into admin/admin.jsp. Just change the URL. No,
like
admin/admin.jsp. URL is incorrect.
So where at last or after
Yeah,
the bank?
You say bank, right? You say admin there, and you already have.
In the URL, change the bank to admin, and then /admin.jsp.
Yeah.
Yep. Enter.
Done. So this is giving me the admin access.
Correct. Now, what does this mean? You logged in as a normal user, but you're still getting admin privileges.
So this is the authorization bypass.
Correct. Now, as a normal user, you're elevating your privileges to
admin.
So this is vertical. Yes?
Yes.
Now see users. There are other users as well. Click drop down. There's JDO and JSmith. Now let's see as JDO, are we able to see content of JSmith?
So what do I have to do? Here, just replace the.
Now log in as JSmith. Password is demo1234 again. And now try to see if you're able to see data of JDO from JSmith.
Okay. Password is capital D or a small?
Capital D 1234.
Logged in.
Go to bank account. See any specific details. See, you have savings account, right? Go press go, your account details. Find something unique which belongs to only this guy. You see transactions there?
Yes.
Now, on above, you see account equals to 80002. See above on the URL. Now change from 2 to 3. Just delete, make it 3. Press enter.
Yes, it is bypassing.
That is accessible to you only. 8002 and 8003 is your account. See balance detail. Now you have to sign out and see if you're able to see this account from another user. Login is JDO and see if you're able to see JSmith.
So sign off and sign in again, right?
Yeah, sign out and sign in. And see account ID 8000 or 80,003 is visible to you only or not.
Okay.
I want everyone to do this, please.
Yeah. No, it is not visible because 8,000, I mean, the 3 is not here.
But you saw the account history of 8003. You're seeing account history of account 8003 only.
This one?
Yeah. You see account history is 8003.
Yeah. Yes.
Now you're pointing to a specific object and that object is giving you data. Yes?
Yeah.
You remember this is what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Now I got it.
So as a user, I should not be able to see somebody else's bank statement.
Correct. So some level of validation must be done on the browser level itself, right?
There is nothing from browser. All of this is server side.
I'm in the server side, but if someone is modifying the URL, that URL is also getting validated on the servers that there is a invalid input, or the moment it sees there is a something change in the URL, it will drop the session.
The validation has to be from server side that if somebody is trying to access an object which is not authorized to this user, the request should be discarded from the server. So every object has to be connected with the proper authorization control.
Okay. Yep, got it.
This issue is called insecure direct object references. Usually the short form is IDOR.
Okay.
Has everyone done this practical?
Yes.
Yes.
Any doubts on IDOR? What is IDOR? What is privilege escalation? We did two types of categories of privilege escalation or authorization bypass. One was forceful browsing. So we forced ourselves to open admin.jsp and it was visible from a normal user account. Yes, that was the first attack. The second attack was we changed the object reference and we saw that we are able to visit somebody else's account summary. That was pointing to a different object. So that's another kind of authorization bypass called IDOR. Understood?
Yes.
Now, when you changed IDOR, when you pointed out to a different object reference, was it horizontal or was it vertical?
Horizontal.
Correct. It was horizontal. And when we did forceful browsing, when we browsed as an admin from a user, was it vertical or horizontal?
Vertical.
Crystal clear?
Yeah.
So this is authorization. Okay. Now let's come to the theory part a bit. There are multiple attack scenarios and that we have discovered in this kind of practical. The first scenario is directory traversal or file inclusion. The directory traversal part essentially is that you're able to browse to a directory which is not accessible. So you're able to see admin.jsp, right? Which should not be accessible to a normal user. Yes, no.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
We opened up admin directory, right? And we were able to browse through it. That is called directory traversal. The second thing was privilege escalation, in which we did vertical and horizontal both. As vertical, we were able to elevate our privileges from a normal user to an elevated user. We saw that. And then there is a horizontal privilege escalation in which one user is able to access somebody else's information at the same level.
Yes.
Right.
Then there is authorization schema. The application honors a request without checking if the user was authorized. So what this means is that you're able to figure out any object, any particular page without checking whether that particular object has any authorization control or not. In this current scenario, it was a mix of all these four, but what we have to categorize ourselves in is whenever there is particular a link or an object or any reference which is not being checked for any user. Now let's go back to demo.testfire once. Share your screen with the same example of object. Object referencing. Anyone?
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm here.
Now, in this, we are referencing to 80,002. Now,
yes.
Changed it to 10, 11 randomly.
So 10 is not existing. 11 is also. Six is there.
Now here and try and understand that there is no authorization control on these objects. Whatever login we do, whoever's user account it is, if we keep changing the list account to a particular number, it will give us. So there is no authorization schema attached to this authorization object. Yes or no? There is no schema at all. That is an issue. So from developer standpoint, when you will report this vulnerability, you can say that there is no authorization schema attached to this object, which is why we're able to reference it. You can write this as an IDOR also because it is referencing to a particular object. But here in this particular website, there is no authorization at all. So which is why it is an authorization schema issue. When in a normal scenario, let's say you are able to test this where you see that there is some bit of authorization schema. For example, user A is able to see only user B, but not user C. Right? So there is an authorization schema, but there is an insecure direct object references because there is no proper authorization between A to B. Then you come back to this example of IDOR, which is the fourth one. Insecure direct object references. Application provide direct access to objects based on user supplied input. So these are four categories of authorization based attacks that you will check on the application for assessment of any authorization.
Yep, got it. So these all restrictions, basically they can put it under the web properties.
Yeah, you can restrict this on application level where you can restrict that, these folders and these files and these systems should not be accessible to a particular user. So all of this would be in web properties for sure.
Okay.
Okay. How many of you have done directory traversal on webgo.dvwa?
What is that? WebGo, is it?
WebGoat and DVWA. You all mentioned to me, right? You did this in application security class.
Yeah, I just have to remember it.
Okay. Can you spin up DVWA? There is a directory listing already mentioned.
Yeah, my DBWA is not in action. Anybody have DBWA in action?
No, I also don't have.
Okay. I'll give you this as a homework. We gave a lot of homework in last class also. I'm not sure if you guys have done it, but I'll give this as a homework that you have to do directory traversal on DVWA and come back with your results. Anybody tried logging into Hack the Box?
Not yet.
Guys, that was a homework in the last class. You should have done it. At least try, come with an error. I can help you with how to overcome that error.
Awesome.
Okay. All right, so this finishes the authorization part. Let's come to the next module, which is called session management. How many of you understand session?
It's a timeout value. Like if the session is inactive for longer than the application defined value, it will get log off.
Explain me what is session, why there is a need to have a session state. What is session ensuring?
Well, the session is ensuring that the login from the respective system is a valid one. And it is also saying that if you are not active in front of your system, then application will forcefully log out you. I mean, these parameters are defined on the application side, that session timeout value would be 30 seconds or the 60 seconds. For example, for a banking site, if the banking site is having 60 seconds for idle timeout value, basically they are managing the session. If they sees that there is no cursor movement or no input values, the banking site forcefully it logs out.
So
again, let's deep dive a bit more. I understand banking has a session need, but what is the need for having a session? Let's talk vanilla.
yeah.
Why there's a need for a session state?
So that you don't authenticate multiple times and you maintain, once you authenticate, you maintain a session and you don't have to submit credential multiple times. Establish the connection, keep the connection active.
HTTP is a stateless protocol, so we need some mechanism for convenience of the user through some mechanism.
So for every request, the user need not have to have an authentication sent again because HTTP is stateless. So you ensure that there is something unique which gives you authorization to every request that you make post login. That is one aspect. Okay, what else can sessions solve?
Nowadays, it is used for tracking the user. It is anti-confidentiality. So through this sessions, server can track where you're going, what you're doing, and can generate analytics on it.
Why there is a need to generate analytics on user behavior? What was the need to track user?
So usually they want to see what is the kind of a conversion, or I mean, which of the functionality is used, how the functionality is used, where the user is going, what is the user behavior, what is the general user behavior, the usability of the application, is it really usable or not, user getting dropping off after, the behavior of users who drop off, from where they drop off. There are various use cases around it.
Whatever you're saying is absolutely correct, but what is that is being ensured from this? Governance.
The continuity of the user who logged in.
It's user governance. So post authentication, once you've logged in, how would you get a control over the user, whatever the user is doing on the application? Logged in, login is done. he has confirmed that he is the user. There is no control from the server side also to ensure what is user doing and how is he behaving. Yes, no. Okay, I give you an example. I give you an example, and it's a very, in a very layman terms. Let's come out of application for once and think from a perspective. So there are two people, two colleagues in an office, and they both have a conflict with each other. They don't like each other. Now one wants the other to get fired. Okay. Now, in order to get him fired, employee A thinks of a bad scenario where he wants to name employee B for a bad activity. So what he does is, on the application, he basically deletes important information and places the name of employee B. Now on the system, there is no session. The only way they can validate is who logged in. And it was employee B. What will happen? Employee B will get fired. Yes or no?
As per data, yes.
As per data, yes. Now we have to put a control over this. A request cannot be forged, and every request has to be unique. Whatever is made on the server has to have some sort of uniqueness attached to it. How will you ensure? Not understood. Okay. Let me give you another scenario. Let's say there is no session in an application, and there is no login, log out. You can just log in anytime, and the sessions and you can, the session is ongoing and ongoing, and there's somebody else who logs in and see the same session. How many of you have visited cyber cafes back there into 2000s?
Yeah.
Probably 90s. How many of you have gone to a cyber cafe and opened up a yahoo.com and somebody else's email account was already opened up?
Yeah, most of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many of you seen that? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the issue?
Forgot to log out from there.
Forgot to log out, so the session was ongoing. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
The person just closed the browser. He didn't click on the logout button. And whenever you logged into yahoo.com back, his email ID was opened up. So there is no governance over the session that was created. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Now today, let's go back to your Instagram profiles and your Facebook profiles. You open Facebook, you open Instagram. Now you go ahead and search particular content, and at the same time your Instagram starts showing you ads of the same thing that you searched. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Now you log into multiple websites and says accept cookies. You click on accept cookies.
Correct.
What is that cookie tracking?
Activities.
Of you.
Browser.
Right?
Yes.
How is the server able to know that you are searching a particular content?
Yeah.
Which
So
means you're sending
history is
something
created.
unique every time you search. Sorry.
Yeah.
What is this cookie?
Session ID.
That session ID is basically your identity of holding that session. So that is giving uniqueness and ensuring that it is you. But there is something connected to that session ID also, which is identifying you doing that search, which is why that information is going. So your identity is being tracked. And then that search parameter is linked to that identity. And that's how you're being shown specific advertisements. Yes or no? Which means your user behavior is being tracked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's consider a scenario. Two people, user A, user B. Now there is a session. We all understand session ID. Is there anyone who doesn't understand session ID? I'm not going into basics because I know you've gone through application security. So which is why I'm keeping that as a baseline. If you don't understand session ID, please ask me. Is there anyone in the class who doesn't understand session ID? Guys, yes, no, it's okay to say no. Please say no if you don't know. Everyone understands session ID?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you log in, you have a session ID with you. Now, let's say I take user B session ID and I put it in my request. I'm user A. Will user B become user A if I use user B session ID?
It's a possibility, right?
Right. So that is what I'm asking. If you get the unique session ID of another user, will you become the user?
Yeah, if server is programmed like that, yes.
Yes, you will become the user. That's how session ID behaves. Till date, every application is acting like that because your identity is confirmed from the session ID. The session ID is not given back to you unless your credentials are verified. Yes or no? Once you log in correctly, then only a session ID is granted to you.
Right.
Everyone understands this concept, how session ID is generated?
Yes.
What is set cookie?
Yes,
How do you
yes.
get session ID back?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we quickly go back to demo.testfire and check on login? Are we getting any session ID back? Just intercept the login request and see in the response, are you getting any session ID back? Open demo.testfire, intercept the login request quickly.
Yeah, we are getting.
Can you show your screen then?
So this one.
You're getting a cookie value back. J session ID and Altoro accounts.
This is the.
This is a request in between. Capture the login request.
Okay. Okay. This is a login request. and this is the session ID. Is it taken from the previous one? I don't know. No, it's logged
This is
in.
a post request. A request is sending a session ID here, which is generated. In the response, you'll get something back. Go back to HTTP history. Select that login request and see in the response. So you logged in and you got a set cookie. You see set cookie? Then there is a path value, there is secure, and then there is HTTP only. You see these parameters? So as soon as you log in, the server responds back that you have to set the cookie for this session as this with attributes, path, secure, and HTTP only. Can you see the cookie attributes here? These are called cookie attributes, secure and HTTP only. And the cookie is set to a particular value. Now you logged in as what? JDO or admin?
This was JDO.
Right. Now save this session ID and don't log out.
So this session ID is getting saved in the temporary folder, or it creates somewhere the path directory to save it?
It's randomly generated every time as a unique value by server, and it is saved on the server side. Don't log out, close the browser.
Close the browser?
Don't log out. That's what I'm saying. Close the browser and log in as admin.
Okay.
Or just log in as admin. It's fine. And intercept that request on another tab.
So it is admin.
Right? This is
Yeah.
request. Forward it. Go back to HTTP history.
Okay.
See the login requests for admin.
This one, right? Did it not come?
Just follow login.jsp. There should be another login.jsp if you logged in again.
How do I do it? Show all rejects.
Just close this. There should be another login.jsp in the request. Do one thing, clear history.
Full? Everything?
Yeah, clear it. Now go back to browser, log in as admin.
Okay, let me sign off first.
Yeah.
Sign in. Okay.
Right? You got a cookie here?
Yeah.
Go
So
back to
now
HTTP. Go to login. Login.jsp. You have to find set cookie. Find the set cookie path. It's not here. Go to. Yeah, here you have set cookie. This is your cookie for admin. Now log in as JDO and copy paste the set cookie for admin.
So this one, and okay. So is this the cookie? Then I have not captured the cookie properly. Alter account.
There is no J session ID being created for you in this. That's
Yeah.
itself is a vulnerability. That as admin, there is no session state being preserved.
So shall I remove this and put this?
Right.
I think.
Try see if it works for you. I want everyone to do this practical, please.
This one.
Okay.
How do I send it to repeater, right?
Yeah.
This
set.
is.
This you're setting a new cookie itself. So say send.
Okay.
So now your cookie is, you've logged in and you've got a response back from set cookie.
Yeah, but if you see here, now I logged in, but it is still admin, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so that means I just told the session ID, but my other things will stay as is.
Because you're utilizing credentials of admin, you're logged in inside. You have to force a request for some other user's account from admin.
Okay.
Do this horizontally instead of admin because admin should be able to view everything. So copy session of user A and try to copy to session user B and see if you're able to access.
Okay. Okay. Didn't no. I see this send if I do.
Repeater is only for you to test whether that request is working for you or not. So one thing that has proved that even if you change the cookie, which is already validated to another user, you're able to access. So this is fine. Now you should go back to the browser and try to access something from a different cookie. So go back to target, intercept.
Yeah.
Now go to browser.
Yeah.
Select account, press go. Go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have access to 8004, 8005. Now
But this is correct only. Yeah.
Yeah, this is correct. This is right now you. What we want to do is we want to change the cookie which is validated to another user.
Okay.
Now accessing this, change the cookie. The cookie should not be of John Doe.
Okay. So this is the cookie.
Now change the cookie.
And this, yeah, my cookie is still coming the old, I mean, my JSmith cookie.
Which
As I
means
said,
that because
yeah.
that you said that cookie is this. Change the cookie, make it fresh, create another cookie and try to replace it. So create two valid sessions first. Right now you're using an old session. So create two valid sessions first of same users, same level users.
Okay.
Is everyone able to follow what we are trying to do?
Yes. So here we are replacing just one user cookie to access the other user information.
Correct. So we're creating two users, we're creating two valid inputs, and we're trying to see if we can replace cookie of one person to another and see if we can access his information.
It's not able to go.
Forward this, it's fine.
Shall I copy it?
No, not right now. Forward it.
Yeah, there's something wrong with this account. If I don't, it's the same browser. Is it? Will it be able to take two? Not sure. Two tab only. It
That's
is not
okay. It should ideally, but
not taking.
so open another tab then.
Okay. So it's JSmith. Okay, this is also switching to, okay, this is, no, this, I think
So the browser took the cookie of the second login and it was replaced to the first login.
yeah.
That is what happened. So this is another example that your browser is automatically switching to another login as soon as you set the cookie to new.
Yeah, so I don't know if I can log in with two user.
So that is what we have to do. You log in one, you close it, you don't, and then you set the cookies differently. But it's okay. Do this. See, in any case, you got the example right. So Jane Smith was converted to Jane Doe was converted to John Smith as soon as the cookie changed.
Okay. Yeah, changing.
Correct. So as soon as you put the cookie of the other user, you're able to log in. So this confirms that if you get somebody's session ID, you're able to authenticate that person.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'll stop sharing them.
All right, guys. So I think that's one example of session ID. We'll do more test cases of session. We'll take a break for 1 hour for lunch. We'll circle back at 2. But I hope you're able to capture what we are trying to talk about session management here.
Yes.
Is everyone able to understand? Is it too complicated?
Yeah, it's fine.
No, able to understand the concept. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yes.
Great. We'll do more examples this session once we circle back into, and we'll continue with the practicals. We'll break for lunch.
Okay.